Welcome back to Tenza Motorsports. Today we're going to be doing our Amsoil change on our 2014 BMW X3. This car is the twin turbo or the compound turbo straight 6, and the car has 66,970 miles, which is essentially identical to the 1 Series that we replaced the oil with Mobil 1. Now, these two oils, Mobil 1 and the Amsoil, are going to be the only ones that I'm really field testing in the cars because I've said in previous videos it takes so long to get a lot of results back. So if these are supposed to last a year and there's 30 different oils out there divided by 2, it would take me upwards of 15 years between 2 cars to get full oil expectancy results. So that's why I'm just doing Amsoil and Mobil 1, and the rest of the oils that we'll be playing with are going to be the bench test and the small engine testing. Now there are a couple comments I want to go over with you guys real quick, and that is, why didn't I use the Mobil 1 Extended Performance, which is a 15,000 mile versus the 10,000 mile one that I use. They both have the same API and Dexos rating, but the only difference is one is 10,000 miles and one is 15,000 miles. So there's 2 reasons why I didn't use the Extended Performance. The first reason is I didn't realize that there was an Extended Performance because I hadn't done enough research. And the second reason is when I did find out that that's an option, when I talked to a couple reputable people, they told me that there is very little difference between those 2 oils, and that doing the testing that I've been doing, the Mobil 1, the standard one that I've been using, will give a great representation of what the 15,000 mile Extended Performance will give. So for me, I only do about 10,000 a year. So that's the biggest reason why I didn't use the Extended Performance. So we are going to be bringing the Extended Performance in to do our bench testing and our small engine testing to see if there is actually any difference between the Extended Performance and the standard one that I was using. But for right now, there's not really much I can do to change that. We're going to be putting the Amsoil in this car. Now there is another thing I want to go over: 25,000 miles or 1 year. So if you run 10,000 miles in a year, you're going to replace this oil the same time frame as another oil, even though it can go up to 25,000 miles. So if anybody has done 25,000 miles on this oil in 1 year, let me know in the comments below. I'd be very interested to know your experiences with it. And I also want to know, is there anybody out there who has ran this 25,000 miles longer than a year? So have you taken 2 years to do 25,000 miles versus taking its recommendation for replacing it after a year? So flipping the oil bottle around and reading the back of it, I got some more information that I hadn't read before, and it does make sense. So there is a normal service that is 25,000 miles or 1 year, and then there is a severe service. Severe service, that sounded a little intense, so we're just going to read this real quick. Up to 15,000 miles, 700 hours of operation, or 1 year, whichever comes first. Severe conditions include commercial or fleet vehicles, excessive idling or frequent towing, hauling, plowing, or driving in dusty conditions. Modified engines, non-stock racing vehicles, and vehicles using alternative fuels, E85, CNG, propane, and so on, are excluded from the extended drain interval recommendations. Change at the vehicle's manufacturer's recommended drain interval outside US and Canada. Amsoil EA full flow oil filters are designed for extended drain intervals. Do not exceed 12,000 miles or 1 year with other brand filters unless longer intervals are recommended by the vehicle manufacturer. Always change the filter when changing oil. Check oil regularly to maintain proper fill levels. So this reminds me of some of the small print at the bottom of something that sounds a little too good to be true. I'm not saying that this is too good to be true, but it does seem like you have to have a lot of things lined up, proper filters, and a couple other things to actually run this. And it's curious that they mention outside the US and Canada. So again, it is a little interesting to read the back of this. I would read this really carefully if you're curious on what you need to do to run your oil 25,000 miles in a year. But that does remind me of like small print at the bottom of something, and it is in the back. And you actually have to peel the back of the bottle like this to see these added instructions to make sure that you're using your Amsoil properly. So just like the 1 Series, let's pop the hood, check the oil filter that's in there. We will drain the oil, put the new stuff in, and then it looks like the first interval will be about 750 miles. I want to see what's going on. I believe it was Royal Purple. I can't remember which oil was telling me to check it at 750 miles to make sure that you're not clogging your engine up. If your engine's really dirty and you're putting in your SN Plus with all these detergents, it will clean your engine and you could pack up your oil filter pretty quickly. Also, the eagle eye viewers that keep commenting on really stupid stuff, yes, this is not the same oil that's in the thumbnail. The reason I'm using the oil with the red lid is because that is more iconic and brand recognizable for Amsoil versus this silver goldy color that I've got here. This is the OW30, which is what this car calls for. The other one is a 5W30. I'm not sure why they changed the color, but this is the exact same oil, just a different weight. So with that being said, let's get the hood popped, oil drained, and get this Amsoil put in. So I apologize for the dirty engine bay, but it is winter and it is quite tedious to keep cars super clean. So same thing as the 1 Series. The filter sits here. It is a cartridge filter. Your oil fills on this side. And again, like the 1 Series, this has been using Shell from the manufacturer, even though it says use Castrol here. In 2015 or so, BMW and Castrol did not renew their contract together, and this car's been using Shell ever since. So we're gonna get the filter out, cut it apart, and then we'll scope inside here with the endoscope, just like we did with the 1 Series again, trying to make sure that we do the same thing with both engines, and then we'll be draining the oil. So here is our oil filter. This has almost the exact same mileage on this oil change as the 1 Series has on it. When I looked at the dash on this car, it said that there's 1,200 miles left before its recommended oil change, and the 1 Series said like 500 miles left. So this is almost the exact same mileage with the same oil and same driving conditions. Ooh. So like on the 1 Series, I don't see anything abnormal, just a really dirty oil filter. There's no chunks. So besides some dirty oil, this looks pretty good. All right, now we get into where we are doing our endoscope. This gets kind of shaky, so I apologize for people that get motion sickness, but we get some pretty good video in here. There's some pretty clean parts. This engine actually is very clean compared to the 1 Series, but there is one spot over here on the left-hand side of your screen. You can see there it looks pretty dirty. That's probably the main thing I'm going to be looking at on this in this engine from what we can see with this endoscope. The rest of this looks really good. So we'll keep an eye on everything, but that one section we had there is probably going to be our biggest area where we'll see any improvement. So we'll be returning to that spot after our 750-mile check-in. Well, there you have it, a pretty standard oil change over to Amsoil, nothing abnormal or broken. Luckily enough, I did get oil spilt all over on the inside because I got a little too cocky and was trying to do it without a funnel, but other than that, everything went just fine. So in 750 miles, we will be popping this back open, pulling the filter back out. I did find it interesting that there were some parts down in the engine, down in that when we endoscoped it, that looked quite dirty. You've seen this footage before at this point, but it is very interesting that there is some stuff that is actually looks quite dirty. So hopefully we'll see a little bit of a change. As far as I know, the shell that BMW puts in these are not SN+. I couldn't get them to tell me a rating, but I'm pretty sure it's not SN+. It might be SN or SL or whatever some of the lower ones are, but it is not the SN+, which supposedly has the higher detergent levels and stuff like that. So I appreciate everybody for watching this far into the video. Again, if you have any experience with Amsoil, please let everybody know in the comments below what your experience has been with them. And like I asked earlier, has anybody ran it over the actual time frame that it asks to run? Have you ran 25,000 miles over 2 or 3 years? So I appreciate everybody for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you in the next video.